Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to programming with JavaScript. So in the past class we talked about different ways that you guys can work with various strings, and in today's class we are going to talk about different ways that we can work with various numbers. So since numbers are another really important data type not only in JavaScript but in all programming languages, it's really important to understand what exactly we can do with numbers, not only in JavaScript, but in most programming languages. So what exactly I want to do today is actually just see the basics of working with numbers. So let's start. So as I said, the first thing that we can do is actually store our numbers inside of variables. So let's create a few variables. We'll say var a, and let's say it's going to be equal to 20. So we'll create three variables that will be each equal to a certain number. So we'll have variable a, variable b, and finally variable c. Each of those variables will be equal to a number. So here we'll have 4, here we'll have, I don't know, 12. Great. So the first thing that we can do with the numbers is actually adding them together. So we can not only add them together as numbers, but we can store them inside of variables and add them with basically with variables. So let me explain. I'm going to create another variable, so it's going to be variable d, and variable d will actually store the variable a as well as the variable b. So a plus b minus c. So if in this case I decide to run the variable d, so here I'll just write down d. This means that I want to run a plus b minus c. So what's going to happen is that it will make automatically the calculation. So it's going to spot that we have variables. It's going to make 4 plus 20. So it's going to be 24 minus 12. Now, let's say, for example, I want to make a division. It's possible for me to make a division. So let's say I want to divide, I want to do a plus b divided by c. So in this case, if I run it, it's going to calculate actually the priorities of operations. So in this case, it will first of all divide 4 by 12, which will be 0.3333. And it will then add it to 20. So as you can see here, we have our addition that is made at the end. So it's possible to work with variables, but not only to work with variables, but it's also possible to add numbers. So let's say, for example, I have my numbers that are stored inside of variables. Now I can also add that numbers. Let's say, for example, here I want to add 34 multiplied by 7. And I can even add some things right here. So for example, b could be equal to 4 plus a. And now I can decide to pretty much run everything, and it will work just fine. So another thing, it's really important to respect the priority of operations. I can't, for example, make 4 plus c because in this case, the variable c has not yet been created. So variable c should come before b if I want to be able to use it right here. So as you can see, until now, everything works pretty fine. So I can add minus, I don't know, a multiplied by b multiplied by c. So if I run everything, so as you can see, what's cool with JavaScript is that it respects all the numbers. So in what exactly I mean by all the numbers is that you can have numbers with commas. So for example, 2.0007934, it respects negative numbers. So it pretty much has everything inside of one data type, which is different from some other programming languages that will have separated data types for each each type of number. So for example, you will have data types that only have complete numbers. You will have data types for numbers that have decimals and other things. But with JavaScript, you have pretty much all the numbers. So as you can see, you can perform basic operations with this programming language, and it will work as a calculator. So it's pretty simple to use it. Now let's see some cool things that we can also do with JavaScript with those numbers. So once again, you can do a lot more than what exactly I'm going to show you right now, but you'll see it's pretty cool as well. So let's start. Let's I don't know, well, the first thing that I want to show you is actually called toPrecision, And it's actually a way for you guys to, let's take your number, let's say you have a number with decimals, and to actually bring it to the, well, to the closest decimal, or to the closest number. So I'll show you, you'll understand. So let's create a basic variable. Let's call it, I don't know, let's call it x. And then we'll have a certain number. So let's say it's going to be, I don't know, 7.823456. So we have our number right here. Now let's create another variable. So it's gonna be var y. And var y will actually be equal to, we want this number, so we want the variable x, but with a certain precision. So in this case, we have a lot of numbers, but we only want 2 numbers as a precision. So it's gonna be 7.82. If we want 3 numbers as a precision, we want it precise to up to 3 numbers, it's gonna be 7.823. So let me show you how it works. So we'll just write down 2 precision. And then you simply write down how many numbers you want. You want it to be precise. So here, let's say we want to have 4 numbers of precision. And then we can just run our variable and see if it works pretty fine. So in this case, we're going to run our variable y. And if we run it, as you can see, we have a little problem. Oh, it's not y that we need to run. Okay. Okay, we have a mistake right here. So precision. Okay, got it. All right, we can rerun it. All right, great. So it was just a mistake in the word precision. All right, so as you can see, 4 numbers of precision. So we have 4 numbers, 7.823. If we decide to have 5 numbers of precision, it's gonna be pretty much the same thing. We'll have 5 numbers, so 7.8234. Now, if we write nothing right here, what's gonna happen is that we are going to receive all the numbers that we have inside of our initial numbers. So in this case, inside of our variable x. So as you can see, it's pretty simple until now to understand. So we can actually, create various plenty of variables and print them all, but I think you guys understand. So let's create another variable using the same number. So let's call it, I don't know, let's call it z. And this variable will be precise to up to, I don't know, 8 numbers. So let's say here we'll add some other numbers, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing. Here we want to print y and we want to print z as well. So if we run it, as you can see, the first variable right here, which is variable y, will print everything because we haven't entered any number here. And this variable right here, which is variable z, will print up to 8 numbers because we have entered 8 numbers right there. Right, this is a pretty cool thing that you guys can do with numbers. Another thing that you guys can do to numbers is actually transform them into strings. So actually take a number and make it a string. The problem, well, it's not a problem, but actually if you guys want to have your number as a text, it's possible to do this, but the thing is you won't be able to do calculations with that number after that. All right, so let's try it out. Once again, we're going to create another variable. So in this case, we'll create a variable that is called, well, let's delete this right here. We won't need it anymore. So let's create another variable right now, and let's give it a name. So let's call our variable, I don't know, we can call it a, for example. And let's put 1, 2, 3 inside of a. Now that we have this, the first thing that we want to do right now is actually pretty simple. We want to transform our 1, 2, 3 into, little problem right here. We want to transform our 1, 2, 3 into a string. So we'll create another variable, which will be b, and this variable will actually perform the transformation. So to be able to do this, we're going to use the toString method. So how exactly this works, it's pretty simple. We just write down, we first of all call our variable. So in this case, we want to call a, and then we simply write down dot, because we have called our variable, and then we write down toString. So now what exactly we have did, we have transformed our A into a string. So now if we run B to be able to see what it looks like, it's gonna be 123, but this 123 will actually be a string instead of being a number. So here if we run B, there we go. All right. Now let's run everything. As you can see, we'll have 1, 2, 3. But the thing is, the 1, 2, 3 that we are having right now is actually a number. Because even if we do B plus 1, 2, and we decide to run it, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. This means that it's not a number, because if this variable was a number, so let's say, for example, we do the same thing with A, which is a number, and we run it, we are going to have the answer, which is 135. But here we have B that have been transformed into a string. So if we do string plus number, what exactly will be returned? We are going to have our number. Well, we're going to have our string first, which is 1, 2, 3, then followed by our number, which is 1, 2. So right now you guys have 2 ways that you can manipulate numbers. So as I said, there are plenty of other ways that you guys, plenty of other methods that you guys can use to work with numbers. All of those methods are pretty interesting to use. But once again, in my opinion, those are pretty used methods. So when you guys want to change your number into a string, it can be pretty useful in some cases, once again. Yeah, besides of that, those are some basic manipulations that you guys can perform with numbers. So right now you know how to perform various manipulations with strings, as well as doing the same thing with numbers. So in the next few classes, we're going to talk how you guys can communicate with a user. So let's say you create an application, so we're going to practice everything, and also communicate with our user. For now, that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class.